Hello and welcome everybody to another tips and tricks section on Fabrication CADmep 2017. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how this typically works with our product here. And Fabrication CADmep is an add-in. It's an add-in to AutoCAD. Now the base AutoCAD that you have to have is at least AutoCAD. It doesn't work on AutoCAD LT, so you'll have to have at least AutoCAD, but what you'll see here, you'll notice that I'm using AutoCAD MEP. It's a vertical based on top of AutoCAD, specific for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and piping design. Not to be confused with Fabrication CAD MEP. Fabrication CAD MEP is specific for detailing and making sure that everything is fully coordinated for prefabrication purposes. So the concept there is that we're not relying on design capability to get us from point A to point B and the routing of the piping between those 2 points. We're actually going down to the precision of what's actually manufactured and how you actually spool the piping so that it works perfectly the first time without having to recut and fabrication level of intent. So Fabrication CAD MEP on top of AutoCAD MEP. And let's take a look at how we use this. My goal for this video is to show you how to draw pipes, valves, and fittings in AutoCAD background, just 2D with no architectural background. So just like a blank slate, how do I draw this stuff? So there's a couple of ways to do this, but let me back up just one step here. Let me go ahead and close this out. I want to show you how this works from the get-go. Now you're going to notice that in my setup here, I've got plain AutoCAD 2017. I also have AutoCAD MEP. I also have AutoCAD Architecture. And just recently, I installed Plant 3D. Okay, so the last version of AutoCAD that you have open, when you click on CADmep, is what that is going to want to open. So the last version of AutoCAD that I had open was AutoCAD MEP. And as you can see here, it's trying to launch that as the base. And then you just simply select the configuration you want. I'm going to work with metric, but if you wanted, I'm going to work with imperial, but you can see here that we have metric content, we've got stuff for Revit, and just different configurations. You can even have your company standard template, your configuration, or a client standard configuration. Let me give you a quick orientation as to what we're looking at here. On the far left here, in red, I'm circling the tool panel. Okay, the tool panel, what it does is this will rearrange depending on the service panel. So whatever service you're dealing with, the red tool panel will automatically change. And in green here, I'm highlighting the toolbar. Now this toolbar has specific tools that we'll be using throughout the course of the modeling process and the documentation process. Okay, and finally, one last user interface capability here is if you right-click in the graphics screen, you will have what's referred to as the CADmep Pop 0, and this Pop 0 gives us all these different additional features that we can use specific for Fabrication CADmep. So how does this work? How do we draw pipe with Fabrication CADmep? So the first thing that you would want to do, I'm seeing that I got ductwork here. So this is the standard stuff that comes out of Fabrication CADmep. Let's go ahead and pick some piping, some process chilled water supply. Now you'll notice that my tool palette here, it kind of rearranged itself so that it's pipe fittings. In this case, this is the soldered stuff. Now for anything that's smaller than like an inch or something, we're going to use soldered. But anything over that, we're going to use welded. So you will build your service to have these and only these fittings and valves and hangers specific to that particular service. Okay? So of course we have a huge library of parts that Fabrication CADmep comes with. However, when you're dealing with a specific service, for instance, maybe you're doing plumbing, you'll see that it gives us the specific no hub piping, the tapped, the copper, and then of course all the different capabilities in there, right? So the services will dictate specifically what fittings are going to be used. So let's take a look at process chilled water supply. How do I add piping? There's two ways to do this. The first way, which I'll show you, is referred to as the part-by-part attacher method, and the second way is a design line. So here's the attacher method. If I select a pipe, I'll get a drop down here that says, hey Jay, what size do you want? So I want 6-inch, and by default, the 6-inch has a length that's associated to this. According to the service, they're going to be 20-foot sticks of 6-inch piping. Now, by default, you can change that so it's 10 foot or whatever distance you need. But by default, that's what's coming in, so I'll go ahead and use that. Now, it's asking me, what do you want to do here? In my command prompt, it's asking me to toggle the base point. So if I click on toggle, it'll just go to the other end. I can rotate around the X, the Y, or the Z. The Z makes most sense. If I rotate around the Z, you'll see that I type Z and that, let me zoom in here, that the pipe automatically rotates at 90 degrees around that Z axis, okay? So to place it, you just click in space. There's my point. Now to fix the relative, this starts to get into some sloping capabilities. That's what fall gradient means. These are locations, these are the rotations. So I'll just click on OK here to accept that. Now what you'll notice is that we do have the pipe, and there it is in place. If I attach yet another pipe, it's going to attach itself to this connector automatically. Now if I hit that button, you'll see that it got attached. Now you can move that attacher to the other end by using the toolbar, and maybe I want to add an elbow. Now the elbow that I'm about to add, I want it to curl in this direction down this way. And the attacher, you're going to see something curious about the attacher. It's pointing straight out from the pipe, but it has a smaller arrow pointing vertically upwards here. So what that does is it controls the elbow orientation, as you can see here, right? Now let's go ahead and undo that that method here, and let's add the attacher back to that location. What we really want to do is if I click down and hold on this attacher button, it's got to fly out. I want to rotate this. So if I just hit the space bar a few times, you're going to see that I rotate all the way around, and I got blue, and I got green, and I got red. So blue points up to the sky. So if I put an elbow, it's going to point up. And if I point down, it's just going to be horizontally downwards, in that direction. And if I want to go down towards the flooring, because I'm looking at a plan view here, green points to the grass. Green points to the grass, blue points to the sky. It's a little helpful mnemonic device that you can use to help you with that. Now let's assume that we're drawing some pipe here, and what I want to do is I want to bring this back. That's too much piping. I want to bring it back. So I'm using my grips, as you can see here, and I'll go ahead and orient that the other way. I'll add another elbow here, and I'll continue my piping. Right? So that's kind of how this works. Now, if I want to add a reducing T, I've got that T reducer right here. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. I can right-click on this guy, and I can take off his cut-in, which means that it's going to place it within this particular pipe. So what size do you want? Let's do a 6x6x4. And now I can see that I can slide it anywhere along the pipe, and it'll automatically place it. So here is where I want to place it. And you'll notice that it added these little magenta things. What are these things? So if I look at this, let's go to the object viewer. I just right-clicked and go to the object viewer. If I look at this in 3D, you'll see that it is a shop well. This object is a shop well. Check it out. How do I know that? If I double-click on this guy, I'll see that I've got a shop well that's automatically being added between the fittings. I don't have to manually add each fitting. It's automatically being placed for me. So I'll add the attacher here. Check this out. I'll just add the attacher to this location, and I'll add a pipe. Now, because it already understands that that connector is a 4-inch connector, that pipe that was just placed is no longer a 6-inch pipe that I specified earlier. No, it's a 4-inch pipe. So if I double click on this guy, you'll see that the diameter here is a 4-inch. You can also see the catalog item is 4-inch. I can change it after the fact if I want to, but that's the case here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the second method of drawing, right? So the second method of drawing pipe in 2D with no architectural background is what's referred to as the design line. There's this pretty interesting green, I'll circle it here in red, green button that activates the design line. So the way this works, I like to do a few things here. Once I select it, it gives me this new panel up here. So I'll go ahead and click View, and I want to change the change shape automatically. I want to turn that off, okay? And here I'll specify the elevation. So the elevation is going to be, I guess it's going to be 9 feet. Now, this is changing in future versions, but right now I have to enter 9 feet as inches. So I'll enter 120 for a 10-foot elevation, and then I will start my design line. Watch this. So the design line gives me the ability to simply pick my points, as you see here, and then I can end it, right? So I just drew point by point where that's supposed to happen, and that's kind of how that works. Now, a few additional details. We are going to add in some 6-inch piping and 120 inches. Let's go ahead and add some piping now. So that was the design line, and what the design line does is it facilitates adding these components. Now, you'll notice that I have a big, heavy center line here that represents my design line, okay? But then I also have the piping that's associated right around it here, and according to my minimum cut lengths of 20 feet, which is 240 inches, that's where the shop weld will be placed, okay? Now, if I want to do, for instance, a takeoff here, I'll just use my classic AutoCAD nearest snap. I'll go to the center line here, and I'll draw it outwards, right? So that's a 6-inch, I guess, T there, and or takeoff, excuse me. Let's do this instead. Let me do that one more time. This time I'm going to use 4 inches, and I'll attach it in the same place here. So I'll use my nearest snap, I'll grab it here, and I'll draw it downwards. So that's how we go through the process of adding either piping, fittings, and valves. And let me place another valve here, so I'll go ahead and add the valve. And this time, using the design line, it's a little bit different because you'll just go ahead and pick on the design line where you need it to be. So I'll pick like right here. And you'll see that the design line has a new location in there, but there's no valve that appeared. And it won't appear until you go through and reformat the 3D graphics here, right? So what that means is you have a center line. So I've removed the 3D elements. You have a center line and a smart design line, and it understands where all those objects are supposed to be. So when you fill in the 3-dimensional graphics based off of your design line here, it'll automatically wrap that around. So that's, in essence, that's how we do some basic 2D modeling on a background that doesn't have any architectural features at all.